to take us through that. So just a very quick background on the Interaction Design Foundation. So we usually host meetups once a month, and they will and always will be free for anybody to join who has an interest. But the Interaction Design Foundation is also an excellent learning platform if you want to learn more about design and UX. So definitely go check them out. They were established in 2002 in Denmark, and it's a bunch of online courses and an entire community. So there's a very big global footprint of the IDF. So if you join the IDF, you're part of a global community. Just some quick thank yous. Everybody who came tonight, really appreciate you coming to our session. Our sponsors, the remote coaches who trained our coaches in the principles, Designered and IDFJHB. So these companies put in their time and skills to make this evening happen. Just to the hosts, we've got Adrian Tonkin, Mark Jackson, Chesway, and me from the Interaction Design Foundation. We'll send out this slide afterwards if you'd like to go check out our links or get in contact with us. We'll send this out afterwards for you. All of the information that you need tonight will be in the chat. But afterwards, if you'd like to go check out the Interaction Design Foundation, the remote coaches to learn more about remote facilitation, as well as the Google Slides document if you'd like to copy that out as a template. And we've got some great news. You can get 10% discount on remote coaches training if you use the code DESIGNTECH. So without further ado, I'm Melissa. I'm going to hand over to Adrian and Mark.
Thank you, Melissa, and welcome everybody. Thank you for that warm welcome. So it's so great to have everybody here. We are going to have some fun this evening. If you want to put your videos on, you can. That'll be cool. If you're feeling a little bit camera shy, that's also okay. We're going to go into breakout rooms in a moment, so you're going to get an opportunity to interact with a smaller group of people. And what we find is when you're in a large group like this, it's quite hard for everybody to kind of talk and be heard, etc. So then the breakout rooms work really nicely. So we're going to be practicing a bit of stuff tonight. So we'll be practicing what we preach to some extent. So it's kind of an experiential workshop. We will start off by having a bit of a check-in. Let me share my slides quickly. Sorry. So that everybody can see. So yeah. We are going to begin with a check-in, so we'll spend about 10 minutes in our breakout rooms. Then I'm going to share some of the ideas that we have learned around remote facilitation so that you can pick up some of the tips and tricks that we've shared. Then we are going to go back into our breakout rooms, and you're going to have an opportunity to share some questions, and by using the wisdom of crowds, you can kind of answer some of one another's questions for a few minutes, and then we'll bring it back into the big room and you'll kind of see how that works. And then Mark and I will answer some of the questions that get raised, and then we'll go to a checkout. And then we have set aside some time after 7 for a little bit of Q&A, so if anyone wants to stick around and you feel that you have more questions you want to ask, we'll be around for another few minutes. But officially our proper agenda for the evening ends after the checkout. So when that 5 minutes is up, then you guys are all off the hook, you ladies and gents. Some of the etiquette for the meeting. So we're kind of creating a little bit of a working agreement. So you'll see on the agenda, we've got the hands raised facility. So if you wanted to say something, and this particularly applies in your breakout rooms, use the little raise hand feature, or if you've got your video on, you can just stick your hand up. That's one of the neat things about having your video on. If you are not talking, please can you mute your microphone, so in case there's any background noise, it doesn't come through and interrupt the conversation of what other people are saying. And if you can, and if you're happy, put your video on, because it's great to see one another's happy faces, and then we can kind of get some visual cues, some non-verbal stuff from what's going on within the group as well. Okay. Does everybody, I'm hoping everybody's managed to see find the link in the chat to our to the slide deck. So you should be able to, sorry, oops, There we go. You should be able to open it in a browser on your own machine. So we're going to interact with the slide deck. So the idea is that everyone should log in, have it open on their web browser, and then they're going to be in edit mode, and we can kind of interact with one another. We're going to start interacting only from slide 9 onwards. So each breakout room will have their own slide for your teamwork and what have you. But you can kind of see what's the whole plan for the night is, which is quite nice. And doesn't matter if you move around at your own pace. We will tell you where we are so that you have an idea where we're kind of focusing at this point in time. I'm probably not going to share the slides the whole time. I'll share them at key moments of our talk, but otherwise you're going to have it open on your web browser in front of you. So if you have any problems, feel free to pop them in the chat, and Chesway will help out. She's our Zoom admin for the night, so she's going to do her best to answer your questions and help out. And so I'm going to hand over to my co-host Mark, and he's going to just talk you through the check-in, and then he's going to pop you into the breakout rooms.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's actually really awesome to be here. And please excuse my head wear. I'm having a bad hair day. No, actually, I don't have any hair. That's why I'm wearing a beanie, because it's flipping cold. Yeah, so if you are, I see some people are posting in the chats. Chesway, thanks very much for reposting the link. Some people are having issues. Please try and join us, and you can pick up from wherever we are. Yeah, so we're going to go into breakout rooms now. How many people do we have online?
We've got 32.
32.
Let's make 5 breakout rooms.
So should we do 4 of 8?
It's, okay.
Can we do 4 sorry, Adrian, can we do 4 breakout rooms of 8 each? And what I'd like you to do is when you go into your breakout room, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and well, to answer this question, introduce yourself with your pet name and the name of your favorite pet. Sorry, introduce yourself with your name, not your pet name, just with your name and the name of a favorite pet of yours. If you have never had a pet, make one up. So there's a couple of images that have been posted on there that maybe we've already got. I'm Fluffy. Thanks, Kyle. So when we go out to our breakout rooms, we're going to say, I'm Kyle, and my favorite pet was Fluffy. And then, yeah, maybe tell the group why you chose that animal. So why did you choose that animal before any of the other pets that you might have had? Maybe there was something cute that the macaw used to say, or that the bunny did that reminds you of that animal. Cool.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it.
So,
10 minutes, right?
10 minutes, please.
Okay. Oh, hi Adele, Nolitando and Claire. I'm just going to assign you guys 2 rooms. What we did is we've already started the session. If you look in the chat, there is there's a link in the chat to a Google slide, and I'm going to just assign you to a different to one of the breakout rooms where you'll be starting the exercise with everybody else. Are you okay then, Olotando? Hi, Tawanda. Can you hear me? Wow, there's so many people on this call. So for the three guys who have just joined, Andrew, Tawanda, and Geraldine. Oh, then there's another person, Amanda. So we have already started the session, and everybody has been sent to breakout room. So I'm now going to send you to the breakout room where you can continue with everybody else, and they will fill you in. Hi, Linda. Are you able to hear me? So the activities have started. Everybody is in breakout rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you to a breakout room, and the team will fill you in once you join. I'm going to send you now into a breakout room. This is what it's like manning this program. This is what it's like being technical support, making sure that everybody's in a breakout room. Everybody in a breakout room. This is what it's like being technical support, making sure that everybody's in a breakout room. Hi, Tapiwa. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Can you hear me? So the activities have already started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now add you to one of the breakout rooms, and the team will be able to fill you in once you join. So I'm going to add you in now. Technical support, making sure that everybody's in a breakout room. Everybody in a breakout room. This is what. Hi, Waldo, can you hear me? So the activities have already started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you to a breakout room now. So just hold on a second. This is what it's like.
How's it going, Chase?
So there's so many people and there were so many in and out. And if nobody wanted to have their mics on, so I just quickly give them a heads up of what's going on and that people will fill them in once they get into a breakout room.
Wow, so you had a whole lot of new joiners.
Yeah, about 6. And then I just put them in separate one. Because it would have been bad if we put them all in one room.
Yeah, exactly. And how are you doing so far?
Cool. This is quite easy. This process. I'm a little bit sad that I'm missing out on all the core meat of this whole presentation. So you will have to have you'll have to do this presentation again for us, eh?
Yes, absolutely. We'll invite you next time we're doing it for an audience.
Or you can come and do it on one Friday by us.
Yeah, it'll be even better. Jeez.
What part of my soul are you selling?
The remote part.
That's all right.
Okay, so I see we got 22 peeps on our Google slide presentation. Apparently, we can have up to 100 people editing simultaneously, so I don't think we're going to push the limit tonight. But if anybody hasn't been able to get the link, I don't know, Ches, if you want to post the link one more time in the chat so people can open the presentation if they don't already have it open. I hope you all enjoyed the breakout rooms and you can kind of see that it's a lot more personal. You can get a chance to really talk to people when you're in the smaller groups. When you're in the larger group like this, it's not really possible, right? So like 1 or 2 people get to talk. Maybe Mark and I would have a conversation, or Melissa and Mark and Chesway and I, and the rest of you are all just passengers listening to what we're saying. So it gets a bit boring after a little while. So right, let me share. I'm going to screen share again the presentation just to do the teaching part. So we're on slide number 4 at the moment. These are some of the tips and tricks that we learned from our investigations when we were thrust into this online world. All of a sudden we weren't quite sure. Like Mark and I are agile coaches, and by definition we work with people all day long. So we're very much face-to-face, people-facing kind of job. And so it was a real challenge for us to try and make this transition into the remote world. So we scrambled around trying to find some new knowledge. And then one of the things we do quite well in our normal job is we're trainers. And so we decided to pass on some of the knowledge. So we've been quite fortunate in that we've been able to run it in FMB, which is where we work, for about 190 people. Melissa being one of them, and so she invited us to come and chat to all of you today. So what we've learned is the following. So preparing a slide deck, a shareable slide deck, makes your session way more interactive. So it's not just listening to people talking or watching one person broadcast their PowerPoint and everyone else is a passenger seeing what's going on that person's screen. So prepare a slide deck in advance. Make your slides as big as possible so you have real estate to actually do your collaboration, because we are going to be collaborating around the slide deck, and you'll get an opportunity to experience that in a little bit. Include those placeholders for collaboration, so make sure you copy and paste in a couple of text boxes and make them look a bit like sticky notes so that people can pull these virtual stickies and type stuff on them, and that way we can see what's going on in everybody else's mind as we're interacting together. It's a good idea to keep your slides to 10 slides or less. We've got 1 or 2 extras here in this slide deck, largely because we've made provision for each of the breakout rooms to have their own slide for the questions. But the actual content of what we're doing is kind of around about 10 slides. If you have more than that, it starts to get bloated, and we know what that's like, death by PowerPoint, so nobody likes that. Make sure the instructions for each exercise are clear. And one of the top tricks for keeping instructions in everybody's mind is write them on a little summary of what you want on the slide too. So if people don't hear what your instruction was when you spoke, because quite often we only say it once and maybe the sound breaks up, or perhaps you were distracted for a moment, then at least they can read on the screen what's expected of them on the slide as well. And make the outcomes explicit. So have a time-boxed agenda so that we can see exactly how we're going to get through the session, and so that everyone knows what to expect. So what you're going to learn today is how to do remote facilitation, and you're going to learn by observing us, and you're going to learn a little bit by doing. So this presentation is shared with you for a reason. You're welcome to copy it and adapt it and do whatever you like with it. It's our gift to you, so you can take it and make it your own. So have a look in the top right-hand corner. You see we've indicated the amount of time that this section is going to take, and we've also shown where you are in the agenda. So it minimizes the need for people to keep jumping back and forth to the agenda to figure out where we are and what was coming next. So it makes it a little bit easier for people to keep pace. So moving on to slide number 5, some of the facilitation principles in the remote world. You need to, as the facilitator, try and create flow. So that means you want the session to flow nicely from one stage to the next. You want to try and have someone like Chesway, who's the Zoom administrator, who's making sure that people can get in and out of the Zoom meeting without interrupting my presentation to everybody else. And so creating that sense of flow. And by having an agenda and having time boxes and sticking to those time boxes, you can create a nice flow. Provide clear instructions, so we've mentioned that already. Make sure that exactly each slide is exactly outlined for what people are going to be doing with that slide in order to interact. Try and give everybody a uniform experience. So this is one of the things that we have learned through trial and error, is that when we have a bunch of people in a room together and 1 or 2 people on Teams somewhere else, it really excludes those people on Teams. So the general rule of thumb is if one person is remote, then everybody's remote. And so companies that have implemented a remote-only meetings policy are getting this right. So even although you may have some people sitting in the office together, if other people are working from home, rather run your meetings in the remote space. So everyone has a level playing field. Use time boxing so that each of your activities is time boxed and you know exactly how long you've got. And that way you can get through your agenda in the time you have allocated. We have a visual bias. So make sure that you use lots of interesting graphics to hook people's attention. You know what they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So try and incorporate relevant pictures into your slides where possible to sort of explain and enhance the message of that slide. As the facilitator, you need to remain neutral, so don't get drawn into holy wars around which phone is better or some topic that you feel passionate about. The facilitator is just there to keep the session flowing. You're not there to participate in the conversation necessarily of what the other members of the meeting are doing. And as the facilitator, you want to give everybody an equal opportunity to participate. So that's why we have things like raising your hand when you want to talk, muting your microphone when you're not talking, keeping your video on so that we can respond to people's visual cues and see if they've got their hand up or if they look like they want to say something. And also create opportunities for people to collaborate through the slide deck that you're sharing or whatever tool you're sharing as your collaboration platform. So moving on to the next slide, slide number 6. Some of the social practices that we've picked up from ThoughtWorks. So ThoughtWorks is a thought leader in the agile world, and they're very much about helping teams to be more productive and work effectively with one another. And what they mentioned in a white paper that they put out around, a playbook they put out around remote working was these 5 things. So they said you need to be empathetic. Life has changed for everybody, right? We're all in this together, and it's a massive change to be thrust from our in-person world into this remote-only world, and we've got kids at home, and we've got family members and poor internet and all kinds of challenges. We need to just be empathetic to one another, make sure that we can kind of acknowledge one another's challenges. Connectedness is critical, so this means that you need to really be in the moment when you're taking part in a session. So resist the temptation to multitask, try not be on your phone or trying to respond to emails or updating some or other work whilst you're in a session, because if you're fracturing your attention, you really, by the end of the session, won't know what went on in that session in all likelihood, and also you weren't paying full attention on the other task you were doing. So I think in Stanford they did a study and they found that multitasking lowers your IQ to the effective level of an 8-year-old allocated to each task. So would you allow an 8-year-old to write an email to your colleagues or your boss? Think about that next time you're writing emails in a meeting. Building trust takes commitment, so make sure you take time to connect. So like we've done this evening, we had a nice check-in. Everyone got to talk about something a bit silly, unrelated to the topic for the evening. And it helped us to create a little bit of a social bond with one another in our group. And that in turn creates a sense of trust within the group themselves. Embrace flexibility. So in the online world, we may have colleagues that are living in different time zones or colleagues that have different schedules, even if we're living in the same city, and some people have kids that they need to deal with, and maybe you're becoming the online teacher, and so at certain times of the day you're not available to meet with your colleagues. So let's agree on convenient times when everyone's available to talk with and be online together. And the last point that they made was good audio and etiquette are vital. So be polite. Watch the chat, use the chat feature when somebody's talking. If you still have a point that you want to make, feel free to pop it in the chat, but try not to cut people off if you can help it, and take the time to raise your hand if you want to speak. And as the facilitator, be aware of people who stuck their hand up so that you can give them a chance to speak as well. Moving on to the next slide, slide number 7. So some of the tools we have at our disposal, there's many, many tools out there. We've just highlighted a few that we have found useful. So Zoom is a phenomenal tool. It's a great interactive platform where we can actually collaborate with one another. We have video, we have voice. We've done all kinds of amazing stuff through Zoom, and it enables you to get together in new and interesting ways. Using Google Slides is another really cool way of collaborating. What we like about Google Slides is it's free, so no one has to go out and buy a license. So the barrier to entry is pretty much just an internet connection. And as we said a little bit earlier in the talk, you can have up to 100 people editing a slide at once. So, and even more people watching what's going on the screen. So it's a really nice collaborative space. If you want something more akin to a whiteboard and like a larger canvas where you can put multimedia and stuff down, there's a tool called Miro that's really nice. It is a little bit pricey if you want to get a license for your team. So, but you can try it out. There's a free version where you get to have 3 boards and see what it's like. It's a fun tool to collaborate in. And that what I really liked about it is that it has a infinite canvas. So you can scroll around, you can go to other spaces. You're not restricted to just a slide space. So on the slide space, one of the tricks you can do is you can zoom out a little bit, and then people can see all the stuff that's going on around your slide, and you can use that space, the white space around the slide, to put your virtual stickies and other points and things on there. So you can, in fact, make the canvas a little bit bigger, but things start getting a little bit difficult to read when you do that. iPad for screen sharing is something else that's really cool. So as designers and creative types, we like to draw stuff and we like to share with other people. So if you're lucky enough to have an iPad with an Apple Pencil, you can share your screen and broadcast whatever you're doing on your tablet to the participants of your Zoom meeting. So you'll notice there we said avoid screen sharing. What we mean is screen sharing is not very engaging, so you kind of like just watching someone else's broadcast, and so you need to use it wisely and try not to use screen sharing when you're wanting people to collaborate. So keep the screen sharing down to a minimum. So to recap some of the techniques, you want to set clear expectations up front. So make sure you have an agenda and you have a purpose for your meeting. You want to create a little bit of a workshop alliance early on. So you'll notice when I shared the agenda with you this evening, I sort of just laid out a few things that would be useful for us to work together. So for example, raising your hand when you want to talk, muting your microphone if you aren't speaking, and turning your video on if you're comfortable to do that, because it helps us to create a little bit more of a connection. And also using the chat effectively. So the last point on the slide there, using the chat to record your comments and questions when somebody else is speaking. So that's a great way of getting your points out there and collaborating with the speaker and with other members of the session. But also you might want to have a parking lot or a question slide toward the end of your slide deck where people can place questions that you will loop back to in the end, because you might find that you're not ready to address the question straight away. And sometimes you might intend to actually cover that topic as part of what you're talking about anyway. And so it'll be nice to loop back to it and just confirm whether you were in fact able to answer the person's question in the session. And be explicit about the time boxes. So like you see on our slides, we've given each of the activities a duration. And if you are going to have a longer session, so sessions that go in excess of 60 minutes, you want to have breaks. So make sure you put in body breaks, make sure you give people a chance to have a leg stretch, because we've all been in those remote working marathons where we've sat through an entire day of sitting in front of the computer screen, bouncing from one meeting to the next. And it's quite exhausting, especially if you don't have time to even go to the bathroom or grab a cup of tea or whatever. So make sure you have lots of breaks, because it's a lot more mentally exhausting in the remote world. Since people are way more focused on what's going on, there's a lot less distractions, and so it's more mentally taxing. Okay, so that's my spiel. Those are the tips and tricks that we've learned. Now we're going to give you an opportunity to share some questions and answers with your groups. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes in your group. And what I would like you to do in your breakout room is grab a slide that corresponds to the number of your breakout room. That's your slide. The color of the stickies don't mean anything, so you can use any stickies. It's just there to give you a bit of variety. And spend 3 minutes just capturing your questions on the stickies. So what is it that you would like to discuss with your breakout room mates? And then you're going to spend the further 7 minutes to make up the 10 just chatting about those questions amongst one another. And what I'd like you to do is choose your top 2 questions that you're going to pop in the overall chat, and Mark and I will then loop back and talk about some of those once you come out of the breakout rooms. Okay. So chairs, I think we're ready. We can send everybody into their breakout rooms for 10 minutes. As I said, the first 3 minutes, you're going to write your own questions down. Usually we do that in silence, and then we can talk for 7 minutes.
Oh, hi, Ayanda and Greg. I see that you don't have a spot. Oh. Ayanda, can you hear me? Mm. Did you just jump off with the dog? Hi, Kitso. Can you hear me? Kitso, can you hear me? So the groups are in breakout rooms where they are busy with an activity. I'm going to assign you now to one of the rooms, so don't be alarmed when you see that you move to a different space.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
Okay, cool. You're going now? Hi there, Gift. So we're busy with group activities that's happening now in the various breakout rooms. So I'm going to move you to one of the rooms. So don't be alarmed when you see that you move to a different space. I'm going to send you in now. Hi, Ayanda. So the groups, everybody's put in breakout rooms, and the session is actually they'll come back now in about 12 seconds. So I'm not gonna put you into a breakout room. So I'm just letting you know everybody is coming back in about 4 seconds.
All right, that's not a problem.
Cool.
I've just been having issues with my internet connection.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, everybody, there's been a few people that's been in and out and dropping in and out. This connection sucks. Like, I don't know, where are you located?
I'm in the West Rand.
Oh, okay,
in
yeah.
Roodepoort. Yeah.
Same. And you, Dylan, are you having trouble with your connection as well?
Okay, Jess, we can come to the breakout rooms.
Yep, I closed them. Everybody's here.
Coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark is still in his breakout room. So while we're coming back, if you can copy and paste 1 or 2 questions from your chat that happened in your group into the overall chat for the meeting, and we'll just kind of share them quickly with everybody. We've got about 10 minutes remaining, so we've got about 5 minutes to start wrapping up, and then we will do a checkout, and then we're done.
How could you so unceremoniously boot us out of our session?
You were supposed to be back minutes ago.
I know. But we weren't
It's a hard
ready.
He wasn't ready.
What about the time box?
Exactly. We've got the time box to think about.
Damn
There
the
were so
time box.
many great questions, we couldn't even choose.
Cool. So pick one, Melissa. Share one with us.
We did shared it. She said, how do you keep the energy levels up during the session? How do you keep your audience engaged and have them end up on a high note? And that's also something that tied in with a lot of the other questions that we decided to sort of affinity together to this is how do you convince people that these sessions are important? So it's a double.
So while we answer the questions, I'm going to hand it over to Mark because I'm going to give him a chance to answer that one. But go onto the insights slide while we're talking, and that's on slide number 15. And just write down any insights that you've learned from what we've spoken about today. So create as many stickies as you like, and whilst you're listening, just pop insights on there. Right, Mark, the floor is yours.
Okay. So a lot of the questions that came out seem to be around examples that, well, the one that came out of ours seems to be an example that we could almost draw back to a real life meeting example. And I think this also talks about that. And from our facilitation experience and training experience, you need to tap into people's multimodal learning and multimodal, the way people learn and the way people respond to a session is on many different levels. Some of it is auditory, some of it is visual, some of it is tactile, where you need to move stickies around. And there's various ways that you need to tap into people's senses and to use a varying spray of these senses is when you get the most out of people. You may do a lot of talking and then you cement the idea. You actually cement that learning by doing an activity and get people to engage with one another. And that sort of keeps people's energy levels going because you're not just droning on and droning on and droning on. How do you keep your audience engaged and have them end on a high note? So we will hopefully end the session on a high note. There's a way you got to tie a bow on a session, and it's super important as a coach. It's something that I learned early on, is that if you open too many loops, closing towards the end of a meeting or getting close to the end of a meeting, you got to manage those loops that are being opened, and you got to say, listen, can I just put a pin in that, please? Or can we just park that thought for the meantime? Because we really are running out of time, or really need to focus on the topic at hand. And there's really polite ways of doing this. But to keep, to end them on a high note, you need to make sure that you tie a bow on this thing. Adrian's keeping me on time. Okay, what is from Melissa? Next question.
So there was also a bunch of questions coming out regarding what's the ideal amount of people to have in a session like this?
So this is quite a large group. We've had up to 48 people. But the important thing is when you start to do activities, so having a big group like this is fine. But when you start to do group activities, you need to limit that to between 6 to 10 people. I like a sweet spot of about 8. It gives people enough time to communicate with one another and also listen to what the other people are saying. And when you're capturing data like we just have, if you have around 7 to 8 people, you usually get people capturing maybe one thought, and they can really get that thought down on paper, if you want to call it digital paper. So I would recommend anything up to a group of 48 people. Right. Zoom takes 100. We're not going to test that.
Can we take one from Lizette here? How can I use facilitation workshop to connect with a stakeholder and gain deeper understanding of their requirements?
Sorry, I'm being put on the spot here. How can I use a facilitation
Can I dive
workshop?
in quick?
Yeah, go for it. You've had a chance to read.
The short answer is create a presentation and give them some thinking time to write stuff on your virtual stickies and then discuss it, because that's a fantastic way of engaging everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. People love participating in this way, and it keeps the energy level going too. Alrighty, there we go.
Well done.
So that's our time up.
That's our time up.
Just a couple of little questions. And we're going to have more Q&A after this, right? So if you've still got a bunch of burning questions that we didn't get to, you're welcome to stick around. But in the interests of sticking to our time boxes, I'm going to hand over to Mark, and I'm just going to share our checkout slide, and he's going to do a checkout for us.
Cool. Thanks, Adrian. And thanks to everybody for the session. So breakout room questions. I'm on breakout room 6 questions. Let's get down to the bottom. The tool's not behaving.
No, somebody deleted the slide.
I saw it briefly.
You'll have to just talk us through it.
Okay, cool. All right. So somebody unfortunately deleted the slide.
Can you undo?
I think it was Adrian, because he wants to put me on the spot again. So just as a shout out, and maybe we can do this as a shout out instead of putting it on stickies. What are you going to do differently in your next meeting? So is there something that you've learned in today's session that you're going to take away and use in your next session, whether it be a facilitation session, whether it's a understanding of a stakeholder's requirement, or whether it's a design session, whether you're running multiple workshops? What is it that you're going to take away specifically from today's session that's going to help you as a power tool in your next session? So anybody can fire away.
So if you're popping it on the chat, please unmute yourself and just say it as well.
I suppose that's me. So similar to Google Slides, there's Envision Freehand, which offers a similar functionality, pretty much. So I do like this way of engaging your meeting participants. It also means you have to take less notes because they're also doing some of the note taking for you, so it's helpful in that regard. And And like you said, you know, I do really think deep down, you know, people do actually really like participating, you know. Probably makes them feel like they're being heard and that their ideas are worth listening to. And yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Ty.
So can I jump in?
Yeah.
I just want to say what Adrian said earlier about creating a little bit of extra time for people to bond and just quickly socialize is a very good idea, because sometimes people start, the whole meeting goes insane because people are socializing. And if there is extra time, then I think it's a great idea. Then your meeting can go on afterwards.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Liz also said that she loves the very interactive approach of Maro and letting people write stuff for themselves on stickies. And she said that she has also showed her an interactive workshop. And Peter Moorman said that I'll use Zoom instead of Teams in the future. Loads of more functionality.
True story. Yeah, Suzette, using the presentation itself as a place to collaborate. Stacks of stickies next to the slide, very cool. Yeah, so somebody just sent, sorry, I didn't see who said it. They're off my screen, but it's super important. Once you've finished the session, you can save this document and it's a living artifact. You've got everybody's ideas captured, everything's written down, and you can, you know, if you use Confluence or whatever tools you use, you can just bomb it on there and you know, for later reference. Adrian.
So Zoom is, Google Slides does keep a full version history of all the changes that everybody makes. So you can roll back. If someone accidentally deletes the slide, you can undo it. So it is possible. But it's the first.
Did you
I've never
undo
had anyone
it?
delete the slide before. So well done, people. So thanks. That's it from us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, sir. Thanks
So
for
we
joining,
do
everybody.
have the
No,
optional
let's carry
Q&A
on.
after if some people would like to stick around and ask some questions. But thanks for everybody that came.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. You're welcome.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. It was really good.
You're most welcome.
So Liz just mentioned that the breakout rooms are in the paid version only, but they're very useful.
So only the host needs to have the paid version, though. Everyone else can just come on with the free version. So that's the one cool thing about Zoom, is one person has to pay and everyone else benefits. And it costs $15 US a month, so it's not going to break the bank. It's less than $300 for the facilitator.
And Rian asked, what are some of the coolest online games that you can play?
So
I have to say Kahoot.
Yeah, Kahoot is super fun.
Kahoot is what we play. My bit organized. You can create quizzes in Kahoot, and there are templates you can use and ideas that you can, you know, get from other people who've created quizzes, and then you log in on. It looks like Zoom. You can see everybody who's participating, and then you open the URL on your phone, and it gives you 4 choices, or depending on how many multiple answers, or how many answers there are potentially to the question. And it's nice and color coordinated. So, you know, the question will be asked and it's multiple choice, and you can do yellow, green, blue, or red. And it tallies the scores up for you. It does. Sorry, it's super geeky and nerdy, but it's super cool. Lizette.
Hi. Yes, our company, we had a beer Friday on Friday, like a virtual event. And we actually had a Kahoot quiz, which was general knowledge. And the winner won a office chair. And somehow that is something that everyone is looking for, is office chairs, because most people don't have like proper chairs in their homes for like working permanently on. So Kahoot is a really cool tool for that. And the fact you can create your own custom quizzes if you want to, you know, if you've had a session and you want to see if people actually paid attention or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I had to go and buy my whole family office chairs because we were all sitting in these blooming uncomfortable things. So, like, you know, Except I've got a fairly uncomfortable chair here still, but we're getting there. So office chairs, that's the thing.
At least your family is comfortable.
Exactly. I was going to say around online games and stuff, we've got creative with PowerPoint, with Google Docs. So we've created a lot, we've simulated a lot of games in the online space using just a presentation and getting people to move little avatars around and play noughts and crosses and all that kind of stuff. So you do have to be a little bit more creative, but you can do lots of board games translate really well. Mark has a game called, what's it called? Something about cats. You're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry, I zoned out. I'm reading the thankses. What was that?
What's your cat game, your card game that you play with your kids?
Oh, Exploding Kittens.
Oh,
yeah, you got to get
Kittens rocks.
Yeah, it's awesome, hey?
So you can play that online. Mark's going to teach me how soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
People loved your countdown clock of doom.
Oh yeah, that's quite cool actually. So let me see if I can never remember the name. It's
There's
called
also
the
1, 2, 3 timer.
Yeah,
if you go to 1, 2, 3 timer. Sorry, go.
It's called the minimalistic timer, or there's a website version called 123timer.com, which we use a lot. That's better because then you can share the screen with your participants and don't have to hold up your blooming cell phone the whole time.
It has a certain like ambience to it though.
We use it in real life a lot when we facilitate.
I've been teaching this the last 2 months, I think, 2.5 months. And initially, when you're teaching academic content, it's quite a disaster because you have to put everything into a slide. And I nearly had several panic attacks, and we didn't have any alcohol, so I had no way to remedy it. And then what has really been a dream is the iPad and the pen, because I don't teach from slides. I hate it. I don't teach from slides at all. So I teach with whiteboards, even though nobody can read my handwriting. But what's really been great is I found a way to display the iPad and Zoom on one screen. So it means that I have a document to refer to that I can scroll up and down in. And I can contextualize the learning in the document with the iPad. And even better, when you have something called liquid text, you can smack all of that into one screen. So you have your slide on the one side, and you can write on top of the slide, and even stick polling questions onto the screen so that there's an immediate feedback of results. And so it's really been it's been a lifesaver. I don't think I would have done it without some kind of whiteboard effect. So I think what we're trying to do is also mimic the live environment, the whiteboard, some kind of screen display. But we would never get past the fact that there's no embodied interaction, there's no reading of body language. We can't necessarily use casual jokes and sarcasm because that can very, very easily turn into an extremely offensive kind of exercise.
Yeah, that's very true. And so that's one of the neat things about having people willing to share their videos. At least you can kind of see what's going on for them. So if you drop a clanger and people are all looking shocked, you know, like, whoa, sorry, that was a bit below the belt. Whereas if you've just got people's names and their pictures, you have no idea. Like you could be leaving this trail of destruction in your wake.
The thumbnail of death.
Yes, exactly.
So Ty also asked, what do you guys do at FMB? He's also from FMB. Small.
So we're agile coaches. We work in the core banking platform team, and we help teams to figure out more awesome ways of working together. So it's centered around the agile way of working, where you break stuff down into small little increments and do things in bite-sized chunks. And you have lots of regular feedback so that you're talking and you're interacting with one another all the time. But it's largely centered around creating high-performance teams. So that's allowing people to bring their best self to work every day. That's how we sum it up. Claire, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, so I just wanted to find out, have you guys experienced anything with regards to site walkthroughs? And how do you think you could facilitate something like that. So we do a lot of, looking around requirements in terms of warehousing, supply chain, physical layouts, and it's not something you can always get information about from just speaking to people. I mean, obviously we do the CAD drawings and we get people to submit physical paperwork for layouts, but do you suggest any way that they can walk through video, physical layouts, a physical process? So if we had to see a manufacturing line, for instance, what do you think, or can you suggest anything for that specific process?
So I'll kind of have a go just off the top of my head, but if someone else wants to jump in when I'm done, you're welcome to do so. So I would say two things. So first of all, I would probably record it on a cell phone using the video, but I would do it beforehand. So I would kind of do the walk around, record it on the phone, and then maybe edit it together with, if someone has a little bit of video editing skills, and maybe they can use their phone to just kind of stitch it together a little bit and cut out all the boring bits, right? Because there's stuff in between where you don't really want to see stuff. Or alternatively, the person who's doing the walk around can pause the video when they're changing spots and then just resume it again. And that's the very low-fi way of cutting from one scene to the next. But that way you cut out some of the boring in-between time when the people are kind of walking from one part of the plant to the next. Otherwise, you could just get someone to hold a laptop or a phone and walk you around, but I think you might want to vomit after that, so I don't know.
Yeah, we thought about the GoPro, and that just, there was too much movement, way too much. It was like seasick.
So you can get a little gimbal that you put your phone on, and it holds it very stable so that your video is a lot more stable while you walk around. So you can be wobbling the handle and the phone stays stable. They're about two grand.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Liz, you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to mention that I've also given a few talks recently where you don't see anyone else on the other side of the screen. You're talking to yourself, and then you're giving a talk and you make a joke and you're sitting there awkwardly because you kind of hope that people actually understood the joke. And you have no way of knowing. So the lack of feedback is something that I've found interesting and frustrating sometimes. Do you have an interesting camera that seems to focus?
Doesn't focus very well.
And Liz, I know for a fact your humor is very dry, so it doesn't help.
That's the thing. Like I'm sometimes very sarcastic, so I don't always know if people are catching my jokes, and I have no way of knowing. But yes, yeah, I think we're all learning like different ways of interacting now, that everything is digital. I think people are learning to be a lot more careful with the way they interact, especially like via text with Slack and using that a lot more, because things can so easily be misinterpreted. Yeah, that's an interesting one I've come across as well.
Similarly, though, we're all learning together, so we have this kind of unparalleled opportunity to make mistakes, and we're not expected to be experts and completely slick at everything we produce. So we can have the dog walking in the room, and we can have a slide deleted from your deck. It's like, so what? We're all human. We make mistakes, and people are a lot more understanding at the moment. I think in a few years' time, we're all going to be expected to be a lot more familiar with this remote working way of doing things, and so the tolerance level is going to drop.
I'm working on a future emerging technologies, two research consortiums in the European Union, and they both deal with this exact problem, actually, the digital realm that completely removes embodied actions from everything. And what's quite interesting is the commercialization pipeline for the technologies, which will all be open source technologies, is projected to be between 10 and 15 years from now. So it's extremely far future facing. But two of the two projects deal with the online learning problem, is that there is no engagement. And because we're seeing a lot more of the open source technologies become available in kinesthetic interaction, which is my research field, that we'll probably in the next couple of years see infrasonic or ultrasonic haptic displays that you might be able to attach to your screen. So there's quite the possibility that your camera would be able to take your face just like you're scanning it to access information and be able to reproject that as a haptic display. And the more the haptic displays, even you think of your wristband of your smartwatch, it is a sort of a haptic display, even though it's extremely minimal and it's not very big. It does give you some kind of haptic information. But what we're seeing in the literature going forward, even though there's not a lot of theoretical backing to tie it all together, is that these haptic technologies will become extremely prominent in the future. And it's going to be very exciting to see what's happening in Asia and Europe in the next 5 to 10 years and how these technologies evolve. There's a cool company called Ultraleap. You can check them out as well. They first worked as an R&D entity for haptic displays and then started combining their technologies, sort of rehashing and pivoting the company into immersive technologies. It's really exciting how they're using haptic display technology. So maybe the office chair that Lizette's talking about will be a haptic display chair with a haptic display on the back where you sense someone's emotions. And I know that sounds weird, but my phone is tracking my heart rate. There's no reason to think that heart rate tracking won't go into a technology like Zoom and give someone on the other side some kind of sense of what you're feeling. This is really exciting stuff.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
Interesting. Guys, sorry, I have another meeting starting at 1:15. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share these ideas with you. So, yeah, have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. J. See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
You guys.
Have a good
Thanks so
evening.
much for sharing.
Bye.
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 Yeah, so the last thing that I just wanted to mention is I mentioned that we're doing that big online course through our church and what have you. And when we break into our small groups, like some of the people I've never met face to face before. So I've been just amazed at what strength of relationship we've been able to build just using video and Zoom. We've been going for about 8 weeks now, and we've really got to know one another, and we've created nice friendships. So if you are willing to share your video and like be present on the call, you can do amazing things. Cool beans. I think
Awesome.
we're pretty much there.
We've got a comment from Ed left, but he said, Ty said, thanks so much for an awesome session. I had a great deal of fun and learned at least 2 phenomenal activities to use in my own profession.
Super cool. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for having us. It was cool to share our stuff with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the IDA for the talk for our first online meetup.
Yeah.
I think it was a great success, and I appreciate everybody hanging around. Thank you so much.
And well done to you guys.
Thank you.
Very cool turnout and very cool session for a first online one.